Do you actually know what happens inside your cat's body when you feed them wet and dry food together every single day? Most owners think they're doing the smart thing, crunchy kibble in the morning, soft wet food at night, the perfect balance. But what's actually happening inside that little body is way more complicated than best of both worlds. And there's one part of this routine that quietly works against your cat if you get it wrong. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to combine these two foods the right way, and the one mistake almost every single owner makes without even realizing it. Number 1, their hydration improves, but only halfway. Let's start with the good news, because combination feeding does give your cat a real benefit here. Cats are desert animals at their core. Their ancestors got almost all of their water from the bodies of the prey they hunted, which is exactly why your cat treats the water bowl like it's optional. It's not stubbornness, it's instinct wired in over thousands of years. Dry kibble sits at around 10% moisture, basically a cracker. Wet food sits between 75 and 80% moisture, which is almost identical to the moisture content of an actual mouse. So the moment you add wet food into a dry diet, your cat's total water intake goes up immediately. The kidneys filter waste more efficiently, urine becomes more diluted, and the risk of crystals and urinary blockages, one of the most common emergency room visits in cats, starts to drop. But here's the catch most owners completely miss. This hydration benefit is only as strong as the wet portion you actually give. A single spoonful of wet food dropped on top of a full bowl of dry kibble barely moves the needle at all. To genuinely protect the urinary system, the wet portion has to be meaningful. Not a garnish, not an afterthought, but a real part of the meal. So, yes, combination feeding can hydrate your cat, but only if you stop treating wet food like a topping and start treating it like a true component of the daily diet. Number 2, their calorie math gets dangerous fast. Now here's where things quietly go wrong, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the food itself. It's pure math. When you feed your cat one food, portion control is simple. You measure one thing, you're done. But the second you start feeding two foods, most owners stop measuring altogether and start eyeballing it instead. And that's exactly when the calories begin to stack without anyone noticing. A full portion of kibble plus a full can of wet food can easily add up to far more energy than your cat needs in an entire day. And because cats are obligate carnivores with almost no biological use for the heavy carbohydrate load packed into dry food, that excess energy doesn't just disappear, it gets stored as fat. This is one of the most common hidden causes of weight gain in cats who are fed combination diets. It's not that the cat is being greedy or demanding. It's that two separate foods quietly turned into two full meals instead of one properly balanced one. Research from feline nutrition centers has repeatedly shown that cats who are freely fed high-carbohydrate dry diets are significantly more likely to gain excess weight over time, and combination feeding can make this even worse if the dry portion is simply left sitting out all day for grazing. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple, yet almost nobody actually does it. Don't feed a full portion of each food. Split your cat's total daily calorie requirement between the two. Wet and dry combined should equal exactly 1 day's worth of food. Never 2 days squeezed into one bowl. Number 3, their teeth and their gut are quietly pulling in opposite directions. Here's something that actually makes combination feeding genuinely valuable when it's balanced correctly. Wet food and dry food are not doing the same job inside your cat's body. Wet food delivers the moisture, the high protein, and the low carbohydrate profile that their bodies were biologically built around. It supports the kidneys, protects the urinary tract, and helps maintain a lean, healthy body composition. Dry food, on the other hand, is often credited with one small mechanical perk. The act of crunching can help reduce some surface tartar buildup on the teeth. But it's worth being honest here, this effect is modest at best, and it is absolutely not a replacement for real dental care like brushing or professional cleanings. So, in theory, combination feeding lets you cover multiple needs at the same time. Moisture and protein from the wet side, a bit of crunch and convenience from the dry side. The problem only shows up when the balance tips too far toward kibble, because at that point, the digestive and hydration benefits of all that moisture and protein start getting buried underneath a carbohydrate load that your cat's body simply isn't built to process efficiently. The real takeaway here is this: these two foods are partners, not equals. Wet food should always be doing the heavy lifting for your cat's actual health. Dry food plays a supporting role. It is never meant to be the star of the show. Number 4, their behavior around food can finally settle down. Does your cat scream the moment you walk into the kitchen, inhale their food like someone's about to snatch it away, wake you up at 4 in the morning demanding more like clockwork? Most owners assume this is just their personality. More often than not, it's actually the food. Dry-only diets digest quickly and leave the stomach empty again within just a few hours. So the begging, the pacing, the constant demanding never really stops because the body never feels truly satisfied. This is exactly where the wet portion of a combination diet earns its place. Higher protein content triggers a much stronger fullness response, and the added moisture physically adds volume to the meal, gently stretching the stomach just enough to flip on those "I'm actually done now" signals. Studies on high-protein feeding have directly linked it to reduced food-seeking behavior and noticeably less frustration between meals. So, a cat fed a properly balanced wet and dry combination often eats, genuinely feels full, and actually walks away from the bowl satisfied. But here's the important nuance most owners overlook. If you combination feed by leaving dry food out all day for free grazing while also serving wet meals on top, you can accidentally keep that frantic, never satisfied cycle alive anyway. Because constant access to fast-digesting kibble never allows the body to reach real, lasting satisfaction. Combination feeding calms a cat down when it's structured into proper meals. It can actually make things worse when the kibble bowl is never allowed to go empty. Number 5, the one mistake almost every owner makes. So if combination feeding can hydrate your cat, control their weight, support their digestive system, and calm down their behavior, where's the actual risk? This is the part I promised you, and it's the one thing most people get completely wrong without ever realizing it. They mix the wet and dry food together in the same bowl and leave it sitting out. It feels efficient. It looks tidy. In reality, it's the worst possible combination of decisions. Here's exactly why. Dry food can sit out for hours without much changing at all. Wet food absolutely cannot. The moment wet food hits room temperature, bacteria begin multiplying almost immediately. And in a warm home, that safety window can shrink to as little as 1 to 2 hours. The instant you stir wet food into the kibble, you drag the entire bowl into that exact same short danger zone. The dry food turns soft and stale. The wet food starts to spoil. And a grazing cat that wanders back 2 hours later may end up eating something that is no longer safe at all, even though it still looks and smells completely normal to you. The rule here is simple. Always serve wet food as its own separate portion at mealtimes, and never leave it out longer than 2 hours. If your cat grazes throughout the day, keep the dry food separate and dry, and let the wet food remain a fresh, timed event instead. Cover and refrigerate any leftover wet food immediately, and use it within 48 hours. One more small detail almost everyone misses. Cold wet food straight from the fridge is far less appealing to cats because instinct pulls them toward food that's closer to body temperature, the same temperature as freshly caught prey. A splash of warm water or just a few seconds of gentle warming brings that appeal right back to life. Combination feeding isn't wrong. Done right, it can genuinely give your cat the moisture and protein their body was built for, along with the convenience of dry food on the side. But the difference between it quietly helping your cat and quietly harming them comes down to exactly 2 things: how carefully you balance the calories and how responsibly you handle the wet food once that can has been opened. Get those 2 things right, and you're not just feeding your cat, you're actually taking care of them the way their body was designed for. If this video changed the way you'll fill that bowl tonight, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps more cat owners find this before the mistake catches up with their cat.